want to welcome everybody. We are so fortunate to have a great partnership with Lockheed Martin. They are very important to TCU and our relationship at Neely. There's several folks that are involved with our supply chain center, which is one of the roles that I have at TCU. And then we have lots of students, current students at Lockheed Martin and alumni at Lockheed Martin, and folks like Colin Gainey, who's on the call today. Thank you, Colin, for just helping us, get the word out about today, so everyone can, still learn about our programs, even though we can't come and serve you lunch today, which hopefully in the fall we'll be able to do. I am distracted because I'm still admitting people in, so I apologize. Hold on one second. So it looks like we have still coming in. Just a minute. All right, it is about 5 after, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. Colin said you can see my screen, but before that, I quickly want to just we have 2 staff members joining us today. I want to just do some quick introductions. I'm going to introduce myself and then the 2 members that are joining us today. Hold on, just got another. So I'm Molly Kantak, and I'm Assistant Director of Recruiting and Admissions for TCU. I primarily focus on supply chain. However, I can definitely answer questions today for PMBA. I know there's some folks on here interested in PMBA. A little bit about me, like I mentioned earlier, I have a dual role at TCU. I am the Assistant Director of the Supply Chain Center of Innovation. It's a great resource that we have for our students, our grad students, undergrad students. We have lots of networking events with our advisory board. It's one of the things that really sets us apart from some of the other programs you might be looking at. It is just, like I said, a great resource. Even if you're currently working, there's still important to be networking and have those connections with our advisory board. And I mentioned that Lockheed Martin, Amy Johnson sits on our board. So there's that. And then I'm going to kick it off to Dr. Jenkins to do a quick introduction.
Hey, greetings, everyone. I'm Stephen Jenkins, and I serve as the Director of Recruitment and Admissions. I'm a member, part of the Neely family and a part of the Neely team. And I'm so excited to see so many people have come just to learn a little bit more about our programs, our offerings, and all the different ways that TCU will be able to add value to your professional and even a beyond professional profile once you are able to engage with us as an institution. So I'm excited that you're here. Molly is fantastic and phenomenal. So you're going to be in great hands. And if we can be any resource for you now and in the future, please do not hesitate to let us know.
And Sue, would you like to, our newest member of our team, would you like to do a quick introduction and kind of your background and where you came from before joining us?
My name is Sue Bramlett, and I support the graduate programs team. I'm new, don't know a lot. That's why I'm here to try to learn more. And I came here from 20 years working at JPS.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, and then Colin, do you want to say a quick few words?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Welcome, Sue, to the team.
Thank you.
I am Colin Gainey, and I'm a part of the Elements Professional Development Committee. And so we work across Lockheed with young professionals to help set up a number of professional development events for them to grow and learn at. So we appreciate TCU coming out. Y'all are great to have. Everyone's really going to love this presentation. And if y'all have any questions afterwards, you can reach out to myself and I can get you guys in touch with Molly, or you can also refer to the event notification. It has her info on there as well. So thanks, Molly.
Thanks, Colin. Okay, well then I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I just want to, I know we have a lot of people on this call, but you can put questions in the chat. If I don't get to them, I'm going to send the slides. I'm going to start recording here in a minute. But I'm going to send I'm going to send the slides ahead of time, afterwards, so everyone can see that. And also Christina's information. She's the PMBA recruiter as well. And so you'll have her contact information if you have any questions. But during the presentation, if you have something you want to take yourself off mute, please do. This is, not a formal presentation in the sense that you can absolutely interrupt me when I'm on a slide, because that way I don't want to make people hold their questions necessarily to the end. Okay, we've got one more person joining us. I just admitted them, and I'm going to just hit record here. I'm going to stop share real quick.
Hey, Molly, you're already recording.
Oh, I said it. That's why it's not giving me that feature. Okay, I actually planned ahead. Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to get started. So this first slide, I love this slide because it's, why Neely? We know that you all are looking at various different options in the Metroplex. These programs are for working professionals. And so there's a lot of options right in your backyard. There's just some good stats here for you to see. We always try and say TCU is personal, real, and connected. And that's absolutely true. I'm a TCU undergrad. I'm fortunate to be back here at work. I love my job. I love seeing the students. But I think the best example I can give of personal, real, and connected, I still see faculty member that know my name. Even people in the facility services, they're still here. It's very much a family-oriented place. And so once you're a Horned Frog, you're always a Horned Frog. We believe that, we mean that. We help you be successful when you're here, whether it's in the classroom, outside the classroom. And so it's a wonderful place to work. It's also a wonderful place to be a student as far as 13-to-1 ratio. We have a huge alumni network. And so it's just, even if you're living outside of Fort Worth, you ever find yourself even in, for example, New York City, there's a great alumni network. When I lived there, I connected with. And so, our reach is far more than just DFW. So I love this slide just to kind of talk about that, because I think that's what makes TCU so special. Our new dean, I say he's new, he's been here over a year now, but he's fantastic. If there's any Sooners in the room, he came from OU. He did a fantastic job at OU growing different programs. He's particularly very involved with the Energy MBA program. He's really gotten that launched for us and continued to grow. He is passionate about TCU and passionate about innovation. And so I just wanted you to see his face. You will, as you go through this process, should you apply, should you get admitted, you will hear from him. He knows lots of the students' names on campus. He's also very connected. It's important to him that he get to know the students well. He actually teaches a course too in entrepreneurship, so pretty exciting. So this slide, I know, again, there's so many people on the call, and I know a few of you haven't decided exactly which path you want to take. And so this slide sort of shows the evening programs, and then the core classes, the requirements, the elective opportunities, total hours, but also what I want you to notice on this slide, on the far side of the slide, the supply chain certificate. That is something, sorry, I'm admitting a few more people out of the waiting room, just a minute. Sorry. So the supply chain certificate, I like this little bubble with the arrow because it doesn't have to just roll into the MS in supply chain. You can start out in the certificate, get those 9 hours, get that on your resume pretty quick, which a lot of especially young working professionals want to do. They want to beef up their resume so they can move up in their current position, or they may be on a job search. So the supply chain certificate is those 9 credit hours. It is part of the tuition exchange at Lockheed, so it is covered. They recognize it because it is graduate level classes. And so once you finish those 9 hours, you can apply those 9 to any of these programs. So for example, I'll take the MS in supply chain. If you did the certificate, then you would have 21 hours left to take. Those 21 hours they're not specific to supply chain. We will advise you to take mainly supply chain courses, but you can take courses outside of supply chain. You can take some entrepreneurship classes, some marketing classes, so other classes within Neely. So supply chain is pretty flexible in that way. You meet one-on-one with an advisor, come up with your plan of study. Important to note though, with the supply chain certificate, all those classes, the 9 hours have to be supply chain. But from there, once you complete that and you move into the professional MBA or one of our other programs, you'll have to do, if you go into the professional MBA, you'll still have to do those core classes, but you will have, the availability to do some electives as well. So important to note. The other thing, hold on, admitting another person. Another thing to note is in the center, the purple circle there, it's not a standalone. So the certificate in supply chain can be a standalone program. That's why I have it outside of the squares there. The certificate in analytics, it's more of a certification, I like to say, and it's built into your curriculum. So you can pick that up along the way. It is, 7.5 hours. So it's really nice because you can not only, for example, be getting your professional MBA, but you can add that certification in there as you're doing your hours. So, so the difference between the analytics certification and the supply chain certificate is the certificate in supply chain is a standalone program. You can just do those 9 hours and stop there. You can also stop and start back in a couple years. Those hours, those credit hours are good, I believe, and Stephen can correct me if I'm wrong, for up to 5 years. So that's an important thing to note. Does anyone have questions on this slide? Because I know there's a lot of information here. Just feel free to jump in if you do.
So for the supply chain certificate, those 9 hours, you might have said this, but does it come out of if you follow the professional MBA path, does that come out of the PMBA core or the electives?
Well, some of those are core classes, and some of them are electives. Like, for example, supply chain concepts is a core class for both the MS in supply chain and for the PMBA. Supply chain, so there's a couple, and it also depends on those 9 hours you take for your certificate. Some of those will probably be viewed as PMBA electives, but there are a few that are core. And Jeremy, I'm glad you actually asked a question about this again, because I failed to mention with the supply chain certificate, when you complete that, if you have a 3.0 GPA or higher, you can just continue on in the MS program. You don't have to reapply. With the supply chain certificate, even with the 3.0, you are still going to have to do an interview and apply for the PMBA. You don't have to take the GMAT at that point, but you do have to do an application for the PMBA. Does that make sense?
That does. Do you have to take the GMAT before the supply chain certificate?
You do not. The GMAT is not required for the certificate. The GMAT is also not required for admissions this year. And Stephen can talk about that a little bit too. Stephen, you want to jump in about the GMAT at all?
Absolutely, I sure can. So the GMAT, GRE, it's been a requirement for a number of years. I think COVID has created a lot of disadvantages for a number of different people because a lot of times in some areas, the only option is online. And so we made the strategic decision this year to make the GMAT and GRE optional for admission. And so for those that have the requisite profile and have strong enough credentials outside of the test requirement, they're still being able to be granted admission without the GMAT or GRE. That said, there are certain students that may lack the requisite, technical background, which is the math and business-related coursework or competencies that may be necessary to be successful in the program. And so at that point, we may recommend to strengthen your profile that the candidate does in fact take the GMAT or GRE to just be able to show that level of competency in those areas.
Thank you, Stephen. Does anyone have other questions about that? Because I know GMAT's always a hot topic. Okay. So, and if you do later on in the presentation, I'm going to have time for questions as well. So, okay, so I'm going to move on from here. This slide is honestly my favorite slide. We get this all the time, right? And I know lots of you are looking at SMU and other places, and they have great programs. They're different than ours in a lot of different ways, which I can talk about for a little bit. But I just wanted you to see the cost, because we get that question all the time. And I think a lot of people think that TCU is, so much more than other programs. So the things to note here are the PMBA cost is the first number. That's $85,485. The PMBA accelerated is less because it's less hours, if you notice from that first slide, which I'm happy to jump back onto. And then the MS in supply chain management is less because of the hours. Again, it's 30 hours as opposed to 42. And then that's the certificate cost for supply chain. Lockheed covers, I think it's $10,000 per year for the PMBA and the Master's of Science in Supply Chain. For their certificate, they cover $7,500 per year. So there's lots of students, current students at Lockheed, that have a whole metrics around this and spreading out those tuition dollars, so they really aren't out of pocket for a lot. I will say that I do know you'll out of pocket for some fees, but for example, the certificate, you can, if you're strategic enough, you can get it covered almost entirely. The other differences I would say is TCU, and we will be back in class in the fall. You're on campus at TCU. As I mentioned, you have access to our graduate career center, networking events, you're meeting with advisory boards. It's more than just getting your education in the classroom. There's the reach beyond that. There's the alumni events, there's family events. We do football games. We invite you to football games and do tailgates. You're meeting with other MBAs, you're meeting with full-time MBAs. So it's very much that community. If that's something you want, this is the place to be. And we are a true supply chain masters in supply chain with faculty that have all worked in supply chain. This is another difference from some of these other institutions. Our faculty all worked in supply chain in a professional career before coming to teach in the classroom. So they have real life, real world experience in their field. So any questions here?
Yes, I actually had a question, if
Sure,
you had a
Jonathan.
second. I think Lockheed employs about a fifth of their employees are veterans, so I think it'll apply to a few people. But do you have a veteran tuition rate?
We do not currently have a veteran tuition rate. I know that we do. So we have a veteran employee on staff that helps our students who are applying with the appropriate paperwork they need to get their benefits used in a timely manner, because I know a lot of times it's time sensitive, but we don't have a special rate for military. But Jonathan, if you'll email me afterwards, I'm happy to send you, because maybe there's something I don't know, because I'm not the military benefits person at TCU. I would love to connect you with that person. So if you want to shoot me an email, that would be great. And then you can have someone to talk to within the benefits office.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Application requirements. I've got another person. I've got to admit real quick. Okay. Application requirements. The fee is waived for this year. You'll go into our portal, create a profile. You'll upload an unofficial transcript. There are three essays. One of them is optional. And I always say, use that optional essay if it's something that when we're reviewing your application that might need an explanation. I kind of use this example. My husband went to TCU and one semester he failed all his classes. His roommate was in a car accident. So it was stressful, but he ended up going to grad school and all that. And he used that not to make an excuse, but to give that information just so we can really glean and get a full picture of you. So don't be, you don't have to use the third optional essay, but we always say do that, or just give us some personal, real connected, like I said earlier. If there's something about you, if you were military and you've traveled the world, I mean, give us all that information, because we want to get to know you through this application process. You'll submit your resume, and then once we get that, we review your application, and then we will invite you to an interview. Currently, from now until August, the interviews will be on via Zoom. You're typically on with an admissions person like myself. You'll have a faculty member on there, possibly an alumni, and Dr. Jenkins, who's our director of admissions. We just ask you to do a 5 to 10 minute presentation about yourself. We send you some questions, say why, if you're applying for supply chain, why the supply chain program, why Neely, why TCU, those kind of things. So that's the interview process. Hopefully we'll be back on campus and we give you a tour of the campus. So that's on there, but right now we're not doing the tours. But we have been approved by the chancellor. Actually was in a meeting with him yesterday. The classes will be in person in the fall, and we will be able to have events back on campus. So GMAT, Stephen, I know talked about that. We do have prep courses that are free, and you can join them. But as Stephen said, we've got some waiver options, and it's also not required at all for the certificate. Who is in your classroom? This is just a few of the companies that students are at currently in the classroom. And again, I keep talking about networking. It's such an important part of your program and your degree. You're going to do a lot of group work. You're going to be working with folks, at BNSF and Bell and all these other companies to kind of, extend your reach, extend your networking. We feel that's really important. We have a very diverse student body, everything from work experience to companies they're at. And so I think that being at TCU, you will find the benefit of just being in the classroom with other students such as these. Our global experiences, these are just a few that we offer. So 2 things to note. If you're in the PMBA program, you have the option to go on a global experience. It's typically a week long. It's a course. It's a 3-hour credit course. There's a project typically associated with it. You're responsible for your flight. Most meals are covered. And like I said, it's an elective course. It's optional. When you're in the MS in supply chain management program, it is required to go on a global trip. Obviously, last year we didn't go, so we got creative about that course that was offered. But our plan is that we will have a global trip in January of 2022 for the supply chain students. Typically, it goes to Dubai and Mumbai. It's an amazing experience. Dr. Laura Mead heads that up. And we open it first and foremost to our supply chain students, and then we allow MBA folks to come in there. So that's really another great opportunity to be able to be in the classroom. If you're a supply chain student, you're traveling outside the classroom, you're traveling with other MBA students, you're getting to know students within Neely. So that's an important feature to note for the MS in supply chain management. Networking, professional development. I mean, I've talked about networking a lot. We do a lot of professional development opportunities for our students to meet with C-levels across different various industries. We've got like I said, the tailgates for football, basketball games, baseball. We'll rent out the suite in the baseball stadium. And we do a really, really fun stuff for families too, because let's face it, if you have a family and you're choosing to go back for your degree, this is a family commitment. I like to say it's an extended work day. So you're going to be in class 2 nights a week, typically Monday through Thursday. Classes start at 6:30, and most Lockheed folks, it's a 15-minute drive. You get on campus, maybe grab a bite to eat, maybe meet with your group, if there's some group work, and then classes are done around 9:15. So as far as a family commitment, that's what I tell my folks. I'm like, it's an extended work day. Typical load, like I said, is Monday, is 2 nights a week, Monday through Thursday. There are not weekend classes. That's another difference between other programs that you might be looking at. We try and respect your weekends. You're working, you might have a family. So we do them in the evenings, Monday through Thursday. The only exception that you may find is you may have a weekend class if it's an intersession course. We offer those kind of in between the winter break, like around Christmas. And a lot of times that's a 1.5 credit hour course that you're getting in a weekend. Sometimes it's over a 2-week period. But in those cases, you might meet obviously on the weekends. So questions? Does anyone have anything for me? And Stephen, feel free to jump in if I didn't cover something, or Sue.
Molly, I was answering and responding to some of the questions in the chat, but I'll read a couple out loud for you that you may be able to just speak to.
Great.
All right. So Tyler is asking, says the PMBA a reasonable program for someone like myself who is an engineer looking to broaden my knowledge base and eventually transition into management, or is this more of a full-time MBA track? I can speak to that if you would like. Yeah, so the PMBA program is definitely designed for someone that wants to grow and broaden their skill set. So the PMBA is really designed for working professionals that want to continue to accelerate their career in their current area in some capacity. And so maybe move into more leadership opportunities, maybe broaden your skill set in terms of budget management, et cetera. Most of the time, those that are going into a full-time program, they're looking to pivot and switch and go into a different direction. And so they're leaving their current company and taking time away from the workforce to commit 100% to their academic studies. And with the purpose at the end to being able to switch, pivot, and go into a completely different career direction. That's not always the case, but that's typically the case at the full-time MBA students that go into their full-time MBA are going in there for, and that's the purpose and the type of student that program serves. So I hope that's helpful.
And one quick thing to add there, I know it's a rare situation, but it has happened because I know that Lockheed, you all have sometimes a Thursday off, a Friday off, a Monday off. There are classes during the day that fulfill some of the requirements. They are first come for the full-time MBA students. However, if there's space in a class during the day, we have been known to put our evening professionals students in those classes just because they've got that time off.
And there was also another question about experience. And so I just started the working 6 months ago. And so he wants to know if he qualifies for the PMBA or if there's a minimum work experience. I'll speak to that again. So the typical profile for those that, and as Molly shared, is about 5 to 6 years of work experience, typical profile. Are there exceptions to that rule? Absolutely. Every year we admit students that have less than that typical profile. But with those that have limited work experience, to really just continue to show your competency in those areas, a lot of times at that point, you probably would want to take the GMAT or the GRE as well. So that's another component that you want to think about. It's really designed to make the classroom experience pretty robust for everyone so that you'll learn from each other as much as you learn from the instructor. And so with limited work experience, typically students have less to offer in that capacity in the program. So to continue to just make sure that you're academically astute enough, you may ask for those students to take the GMAT or GRE to show they're ready for the program.
Great. Thank you, Stephen. Are there any other questions in the chat?
There are, let's see. Clarification for the clarification, this is from Matt. For clarification, $7,500 is the maximum yearly reimbursement for grad certificates and $10,000 for master's non-engineering. Can you speak to that?
Yes, and and Colin, jump in. You may know an answer to this too. And I don't have a benefits person on the call with Lockheed today, I don't believe, unless there is someone that joined us. But it's my understanding, which I don't think has changed since last year, is that it's $10,000 for the graduate programs for TCU that they award, and then it's $7,500 per year for the certificate. Colin, is that right?
Yeah, I think that's what Matt was saying also, and I think that's still true. I'm not exactly, I haven't been following it as closely either, so I don't want to commit to an exact number. But I think in November when we did this, Molly, that's what I remember you. I think Jonathan McDonald was the person who came and spoke. I think that's what they showed us.
That's right. Yeah, and that's been the case. I mean, I've been here 5 years, and I haven't heard of if that's what it's been from Lockheed since I've been here. So.
And Molly, Carson's asked what the average length of time to complete the PMBA program, and the average length of time is 2 years. So it's typically a 2-year program. There's an accelerated option for those that have years of work experience and that are coming into the program with a bachelor's degree in business or BBA, so they can finish the program in a year. And then there are intersession classes, as Molly mentioned, for those that want to accelerate that time frame a little bit more as well. So there are some opportunities to graduate a little faster than 2 years. The typical time frame is 2 years for the professional MBA program.
And then the MS and supply chain, since it's 30 hours instead of 42, most of our students finish in 18 months. I've had students finish in a year. I wouldn't probably, unless you're using military benefits, for Lockheed employees, they rarely do that, right? Because you want to spread out those dollars. But typically it's 18 months, and the certificate to complete it is around 6 to 8 months. But you can also spread that out. So like, for example, for the certificate, if you started this fall, you could use up that 7,500, and then starting spring semester, January 2022, you would finish up and get another additional tuition reimbursement, that's 7,500 again.
Molly, there was a question also in the chat about the total cost of the PMBA program. I know you mentioned it earlier. Can you go just maybe flash back to that slide? If that gives that an answer. And then the last question I see is, can it be extended beyond 2 years? From Jeremy, can it be extended beyond 2 years in order to spread out the Lockheed reimbursement? And the answer to that is yes.
Yes.
Yeah, what is the cap for y'all's programs, Molly, in terms of how, do you have obviously you don't have an indefinite period to take the classes. So is there a cap for how many years you have to complete your master's program?
I don't believe there is. Stephen, do you know? The only thing I'm aware of is if you stop, right, those courses are good for 5 years. You can come back. But as far as a cap to get finished, is there one for PMBA? There is not one for supply chain.
I don't think there is. I've also said this. I haven't heard of one either. I know traditionally and in other master's programs and other schools, they're like about 7 years. But I don't know. I've not heard that there's a cap in the master's program at TCU. That's a good question. I'm not sure. I can get the answer to that though.
I'll include that in when I reach back out to you guys. Colin's going to send me, because a lot of people didn't get registered through my system, but when I send out those slides, I can answer that too. What else?
That's all for the chat.
That's all for the chat, Stephen? Okay, good. Well, I've included on this last slide contact information. Again, you don't have to be writing all this down if you don't want to. I will email everybody the slides and the recording from today. Any of us on this slide, including Dr. Jenkins, who's not on the slide, but any of us can answer questions. We work together very much as a team. But for specifics, I've listed the program and then the recruiter. And so, like I said, we are thrilled. I think there's close to 100 people on this call today. I would have loved to have provided you lunch. We will be back in the fall, and typically I do 2 a semester, one just in the supply chain department, and then we do a big one on main campus. And so I thank you so much for being here today. We'll probably also, I was talking to Colin, we'll be back again. We'll do another Zoom at the end of May. So if you have any colleagues who weren't able to come today, definitely let them know. And if you have any questions and you're still not sure which program or the application process you get in it, and you have some questions about the essays, please reach out. I mean, that is what we're here for. So we want to make it as easy as possible as far as clear. Shouldn't be a stressful thing when you're applying. Then we definitely want to get to know you. So, Colin, do you have
one last comments on the chat. This was from Jared Self. He was wondering if you could please include the military rep for TCU also when you send out the slides, and include their contact info.
Okay. Yeah, let me just make a note to do that. I will do that because they.
But yeah, nothing else to add. That was a great presentation. We always love having TCU come to present. So I really appreciate it. As Molly mentioned, y'all continue to watch your emails. We'll have Elements newsletters out here soon, highlighting the next TCU event. So please, keep an eye out for those. And as I mentioned, if you go back to the newsletter for this event, you'll find all of Molly's contact info there as well.
Great.
So.
And then Colin, will you follow up with me on everybody's emails?
Yes. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Great. Okay. Well, it's Wednesday. It feels like Friday for me, but it's just been a crazy week. Just so you guys know, it's kind of funny, but not. 5 minutes before we did this presentation, I got a call from my daughter's school. She collided with another student on the playground and broke her nose. So I get to go to Cook Children's Urgent Care in about 15 minutes. But yes, that was, so I hope I wasn't too distracted. But I really thank you again so much for joining us. And I hope that you guys will get in there and start an application. I hope we get to know you better. So thanks again. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Molly. Good luck. Sorry to hear that.
I know. All right. See y'all later. Thanks, Colin, for everything.
Yep. You're
Bye.
welcome. I'll shoot you an email here soon, and you'll have that stuff.
Okay.
There. Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bye. Stephen, will you stay on for a minute? Okay.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Keith. I was wondering if you could share that last slide one more time.
Oh, sure.
Contact information. Wasn't there really?
Absolutely. Let me. There we go. Can you see it? I don't have it in
Yes.
mode, but.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Sure. And I'll send it out as well. As soon as I get those emails from Colin, it didn't go through our typical system, so I wasn't able to email you guys ahead of time. So I will send it out though as well. So are you interested in the PMBA or the supply chain?
I was just kind of interested in overall. I'm part of, we're looking at advancing training, so I wanted to see what was available from TCU.
Okay.
I'm pretty familiar with what some of the other local schools offer, and I have not participated in one of these. I've often had a conflict, so I didn't know what TCU's been doing all these years. I knew you had an MBA offering.
Yeah.
So I'm more doing information gathering for other colleagues.
Did you, I don't know if you joined late or there were so many pages of people on the call, but did you see this slide? I mean, again, I'm going to send it to you, but this kind of gives you a good understanding of all the different things that we offer.
Yes, I did. And for some reason, I don't know why and maybe I'm getting it mixed up. Maybe it's an executive MBA that our tuition reimbursement won't pay for. But this PMBA is new to me.
Yeah.
But I think it's the executive MBA that that our internal system will not cover.
I think
And I think those numbers were correct. The 7,500 for certificates, 10,000 for others, and then I think for engineering degrees, they're willing to go 12,500 for those.
that is correct. I should have mentioned that because I know A&M offers that for the Lockheed students. It's 12.5. Yes.
Okay. Well, and so I'm an SMU alum through the program that they partnered with. What's interesting is I started it at Bell Helicopter and then transitioned over to Lockheed and then finished it at Lockheed. So I had the same. It was kind of odd because there was like 50% of or 48% from representation in the classroom, some from Bell Helicopter, some from Lockheed, and then others were from other businesses around.
Yeah. And we do have a good base. There's so many great companies here in the DFW area. We really have a solid group of students from really impressive companies, and that collaboration I think is so important. So yeah, it's a great student body that we have for sure. So you're finishing your master's at SMU right now?
No, I finished it a few years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, 2016, I believe.
Okay. So you looking at maybe getting like a supply chain certificate or something?
Well, I was like I said, I was more interested in looking. I'm doing information gathering for colleagues of mine, part of the training curriculum development arena. So I'm seeing what TCU actually has to offer. I knew you had MBAs, but I wasn't sure about the certificates.
So yeah, I mean, Keith, why don't you've got my contact information now on that slide. I can put it back up if you didn't write it down. If you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to we can do a call and talk offline about it some more. And then also if you have like a group or a handful that are interested, I'm happy to just do a one-on-one or meet together with you guys. So just let me know how I can help.
Okay. Well, thank you, Molly.
All right. Thanks again. And Stephen, I'll call you. I'm actually going to go ahead and get home.
All right. Take care.
Sounds great.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. Keith, thanks for staying on and asking extra questions. Thank you.
Sure. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.